Oh, looks like I accidentally left the TV on. Hey guys, Pepsi232. I'm back here again from a few weeks of doing absolutely nothing, and this is part 2 of my tier list series. If you have not seen part 1 is down in the description, but I'm not going to be wasting any time with the rules or anything, the lore. You already know all that stuff if you've seen part 1, but yeah, this is just going to be the last 7 shows, and as of recording this just a few days ago, Cyberpunk Edgerunners got its first, proper reveal, and it looked pretty good. I'm a little concerned for it, but we're just going to have to wait till it comes out, and PSG Season 2, which I 100% never expected. I honestly never thought it was really going to happen, or at least not until, way into the future, but yeah, that's pretty surprising. Other than that, there's not really any other trigger news. These are the 7 shows that I watched, I want to say around November 2021. Let's get right into it. Oh, Kiznaiver, a show that I truly love so much, yet also pains and kills me to talk about. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. Now, hearing that some Kill la Kill staff worked on the show, I prepped myself up into thinking that this show would have some good action, which is not the mentality to go into the show with. Usually I'd be upset, but I understand that this show's goal isn't meant to be a big action fest like Kill la Kill or the show before it, Luluco. It's striving to be something very different that definitely makes it Trigger's most experimental work, something I greatly appreciate. Kiznaiver is great because it's the kind of show that makes you think, and you already know exactly what to expect when I say those words. On the surface, this show is about how masochism is cool and awesome, but beyond that, it's a show that delves into the human psyche and how we all strive to be so close to each other, yet we could never truly be together as one without us breaking down. It's no Serial Experiments Lane, that's for sure, but just like a show like that, it's definitely worth watching for yourself to find your own interpretation of the plot's many themes, instead of me explaining them myself with my interpretations. And speaking of experiencing, man, there's parts of the show that still give me chills just thinking about them. Especially a certain standout scene in episode 2. I'm sure you know the one I'm talking about. If you think the I just don't understand you scene from Eno Battle is great, then you've seen nothing yet. Episodes 1 through 8 are all just amazing, but there's something that happens at the end of episode 9 that drastically changes the show. That's right, it pulls a goddamn Luke Cage and rushes the ending in the last 3 episodes, which just sucks. The show's rushed ending started a curse that we'll be talking about a lot in this episode, on how a lot of these later shows and projects just feel rushed or just poorly planned out. With the main issue of this show being of how there's just so many characters to the point where there isn't enough time to flesh all of them out. Only around half of the 7 main characters of the show get any meaningful screen time, and all the other ones are just kind of resulted into background characters. If this show was a full 24 episodes long with enough time to really flesh it out and make it a huge epic, it would have legit been a top 3 Trigger show for me. That's how great those first 8 episodes are, so it's definitely worth watching. I'm just saying brace yourself if you do plan to watch it. And while semi-rewatching them while recording footage, I can definitely say that while I can't deny the last 4 episodes feel rushed, they still definitely have some amazing moments and are at least able to give a satisfying conclusion. Kinda in like a quirky Evangelion kinda way. What I'm trying to say is that while they feel rushed, they definitely do not completely shit the bed like a certain other upcoming show. But enough with what could have been different. I'm going to give Kiznaiver an A tier. It's got an original, experimental story that only Studio Trigger could come up with, so I think it's definitely worth watching. It's just, those last 3.5 episodes really do leave a sour taste in my mouth, even if it can't override those first 8 episodes. It's a C tier. It's okay. There's too many masochism jokes to make it warrant being, an actually safe show to watch, but honestly, it's fine. If you put it on for your parents, they won't really mind too much. Now, before we get into the show, I'm sure some of you wanted me to talk about the short films the show is based on, but let's be honest, there isn't much to talk about. 2 theatrical short films were made, they're both enjoyable and well put together, but that's about it. What's more important is that enough potential was seen in these little films to greenlight Trigger's first Netflix original, where the property truly became something special. Now the show is probably just as well known as Kill la Kill, not just because of its accessibility of being on Netflix, but mostly due to the Netflix scandal when the show first came out, where Netflix had fans wait almost a year to watch the whole show, when they bafflingly released it in 2 separate parts instead of all at once. Meanwhile, it was already available in both Japan and fan US subtitled versions that were both better ways to watch the full show. But that kind of became a double-edged sword for Netflix, as while they were getting a bad rap, it was honestly doing more word-of-mouth promotion for the show than Netflix could ever dream of. Which is nice, because it totally deserved to be as popular as it ended up being, because it's a great show. Again, like Kill la Kill, it's the kind of wacky, charming, fun show that only Trigger could come up with. It's well written, it has lovable characters. The show, being 24 episodes, actually has enough time to flesh out all of its characters. The show's a lot more childish, chill, and I guess more laid back than all the other Trigger shows. But that's kind of what I like about it. It doesn't really take itself too seriously, and that's exactly when Trigger is at its best, when it's not taking itself too seriously, and it's just a bunch of characters interacting and having a fun, chill, laid back time. Something that I feel Trigger understands about the fantasy genre much better than, let's say, a series the show is unfairly joked about and compared to Harry Potter. Just like Kill la Kill or Luluco, I can't really waste too much time explaining what makes it so special, or else, that would kind of ruin a bit of the fun. This is definitely the kind of show that's worth going in with no expectations and being blown away, only second best to the untoppable. Little Witch Academia gets an S tier. Now, surprisingly, Little Witch Academia is Trigger's safest show with a unfucking believable TVY7 rating. Yup, that's even safer than Luluco. S tier. I mean, there is not a drop of blood, a nip slip, nothing. Nothing in this entire show, which is insane. And I mean, I did watch the show by myself, but I feel kind of bad. I kind of wish I saw the show with my family, because it's just so safe, wholesome, great, chill. Like, watch this one with your parents or your friends or your family, because it's just enjoyable. It's just enjoyable. It's the kind of thing that everyone can enjoy. We have reached the laughing stock. If there's one show that has done irreparable damage to Trigger's career, it's this one. Everyone at this point has talked about how bad this show sucks and how much they want to fuck 02. And after watching the show for myself, is it really worth such a reaction? And my answer is yes. Yes, it is. The main issue with the show is that, as most of you know, if you actually paid attention to the Kiznaiver review and put 2 and 2 together, it pulls a Kiznaiver. Episodes 1 through 15 are perfectly fine, but holy shit, the end of the show is so unbelievably poorly planned and rushed. If I could give anything in this world, it would be to make Kiznaiver 24 episodes and make this show 12. I would kill to live in that reality. Look, I think the reason why this show gets so much hate having a rushed ending compared to Kiznaiver is that, I'm pretty sure only 10 people actually remember the show, compared to Darling in the Franxx, which was just so hyped up to be one of the biggest shows of the decade, just to turn into a disappointment. People were out here really thinking it was going to be the next Evangelion. And while, yes, I said I wasn't going to bring up the Gainax shows, it's almost impossible not to say that, yes, this show is basically just Evangelion, but not as good. Like, let's not kid ourselves here. There's so many references to the point where it's not even really references, it's basically just ripping off the show. But is that necessarily a bad thing? Well, no, I guess. Is it fair to compare this to one of the greatest anime of all time? Absolutely not, but I can't go without mentioning it. More than anything, I just feel bad for this show because it just feels like a wasted opportunity. There's some real great standout moments, lovable characters. There's a reason why people love 02 so much even after all these years. And, it feels like seemingly it has enough to be a Trigger classic, but not quite. My main issue is that even if the show wasn't rushed and it ended up with a normal ending, I still don't think it would have been a masterpiece. Mainly because the show just doesn't have a basic fucking sense of direction. And that's probably due to conflicting opinions, as this show is a collaboration between two studios, Trigger and Cloverworks. Trigger did all the character designs, which explains why the characters fight in mechs that are literally the most on-the-nose metaphors for sex, yet at the same time it shows barely any of the raunchy flavor of Kill la Kill. What seems to have happened by putting 2 and 2 together is that Cloverworks took over at some point in production, creating a disconnect with wanting a deep and serious melodrama. As Trigger has said, if they were in full control, they would have had the story play out differently. Praise Trigger for the action, blame Cloverworks for how the story turned out, is what fans online will tell you, but that still just feels like an excuse. Corporate politics does not excuse the fact that the show should have still been fully realized before being put into production. If that happened, I think it could have been a great show, whether that version of the show delved into its more raunchy side, or its more serious side. I would have been fine with it as long as the story was completed properly. It's not terrible, but it's not amazing. Its memorable moments that resonate with you forever will leave just as much of an impact as its bad moments that piss you off. For that reason, I cannot rate this show anything higher than a B tier. I sadly cannot recommend this show. Literally just go watch Evangelion. It's just this show, but better. But hey, unless if you only care about big action, bigger tits, for the meme, or just, I don't know, because I thought it would be funny, if those are your reasons for watching the show, then sure, go ahead and watch it. It's not like I give a shit about what you do. It's not like I care about your terrible decisions in life. It's not like I care when you come crying back to me. You know what I mean? It's your terrible decisions in life, and I had nothing to do with it. Do I even need to explain myself? F tier, moving on. SSSS.Gridman, the successful reboot of an obscure 90s Sentai show nobody outside the Trigger offices had ever heard of, also started off as a small conceptual short film before turning into a 12-episode series. Now, I know a lot of people are very fond of the show, as it is pretty popular, but to be honest, I wasn't the biggest fan of it. Out of all the other Trigger shows, this is definitely the one that has not properly clicked with me the way it has for others. And look, I get what the show is trying to do. From the pacing to the fight scenes, it's not trying to be a modern anime. It's trying so hard to be an 80s tokusatsu show. For some people it worked, but for me, making the show Monster of the Week, a TV formula that has long been out of style, made the show just feel outdated instead of a cool gimmick. Don't get me wrong, the action is freaking awesome. It's just a blast to watch every second. But the story just felt very disconnected with plot holes galore, despite how fun the writing can be at times, especially with the villains. To me, it just felt like more attention was put into the battles than creating a perfect story. And yeah, I know it just brings into a segue of how you're probably saying that if I watched the original show, I would have liked it a lot more. In fact, it seems that the people who love the show to bits are the people who are fans of that original show. But come on, I shouldn't have to be a fan of this old as hell property to be able to find enjoyment in its reboot. The fan fodder should always come secondary to an engaging story. If you're coming into the show expecting nothing but cool action, that is exactly what you're going to get. There's pretty much no long-staying substance with the storyline, but come on, that isn't necessarily a death penalty-worthy crime. You know exactly what you're getting when you're watching the show, and, you know, it's good. It's a good show. But again, just being good is not good enough for Studio Trigger. B tier. Gridman is surprisingly really safe. Again, I really wish I did watch the show with my family, especially my dad, which used to be a big fan of kaiju type stuff like Godzilla, so I think that my family would have really liked it. A tier, but I might move it up to S a little bit later. From the director of Kill la Kill and Luluko comes Trigger's first theatrical movie and their second highest rated project, Promare, which I sadly did not get to see when it came out in theaters because, you know, our small town doesn't get Regal, it's like half an hour away. So yeah, I did buy it on Blu-ray Steelbook when it came out, and I also waited over a year to end up watching it. Just because I was originally going to watch this with some friends, as some of you know, I've told the story a few times. I never ended up getting the time to watch it with anyone. But after watching it by myself, I originally didn't really like it that much, but because I want to give it a fair chance, a few days ago I rewatched it, and I can definitely say it's a great film. Is it Trigger's second best project? That's debatable. But anyways, the movie is great because it 100% understands what Trigger is best at. Balls to the walls action mixed with splashes of substance in its world building, and a good helping of Trigger's trademark comedy. I'm sure you can tell by looking at the animation, it is Trigger's best looking production to date. I mean, it just looks beautiful and jaw-dropping. I bet it looked even better in the theater. I mean, just the attention to detail in every single frame is astonishing. The colors just pop out and it looks just beautiful at times. But the story really isn't something to write home about compared to the animation. I mean, it is extremely generic, like it's literally just X-Men to the point where my dad walked in for a minute, pointing to the screen and said, "Oh, that's like X-Men." But come on, you know it would be foolish to be upset at the movie for that. Going into this movie, you're expecting nothing but the greatest action you will ever find in an anime movie, and it seems that's exactly what everyone loves it for, just nothing but the action. Nobody's watching this shit for the storyline, so of course I can't really fault it for that. Even then, without an original plot, it definitely has stuff you can sink your teeth into with its messages and themes, so it's not completely devoid of substance. But still though, second highest rated project? A 97 on Rotten Tomatoes? Like, it's a great movie, but I'm a little hesitant to say it's that great because, well, it's only Trigger's first movie, and in my opinion, I can totally see it being outdone. Like, you can't deny this movie has set up a formula for potential future movies. Whether it's a Promare 2 or a new story, all they have to do is expand upon it and add more. More action, more comedy, and, you know, an impactful, heartfelt story like, I don't know, Kill la Kill. There you go, you made a 10 out of 10 masterpiece. Trigger will definitely make a lot more films along the way, and this one definitely gets sentiments for being their first, as well as the breathtaking animation, but I can totally see it being outdone, which is why I can't say it's an undisputed, never will be topped S, so I'm gonna give it an A tier. Surprisingly, a pretty safe PG-13, not too violent, but not too raunchy as well. Yeah, pretty safe to watch with the family. I'd give it an A tier. B&A, Brand New Animal, the only Trigger show I actually watched when it first came out, and by that I mean I saw one episode and then dozed off and never finished it, but after going back and finally finishing it, it's time to ask the real questions. Mainly how the show was criticized to be nothing but furry bait, which definitely isn't not true, but I mean it's not furry trash either. I thought the animation, the action, and the world Michiru lives in to be astonishing, but once again, none of that matters if the story isn't engaging, and that's my whole problem with the show. To cut the shit, the first thing I said when the credits rolled was, what was the point? Because oh my god, this show's story just has no sense of direction. Saying this show suffers from the 12-episode curse is an understatement. The first half wants to be a fun, over-the-top, light-hearted comedy like Little Witch Academia, while the second half quickly changes to being dark and serious, wanting to preach to us about racism and discrimination in a way that's written way worse than any X-Men comic it could have been inspired from. The first episode really just set me up into thinking that this would be a show with a lot to say, but it says nothing when it quickly goes back and forth on being a fun comedy in a way that just doesn't work at all. It's stuck in this gray area where it can't appease both ends of the Trigger spectrum, so the only thing left is pandering to furries. But even then, I don't even think furries love this show, so then who is it for? For only 12 episodes, Trigger definitely bit off way more than they could chew. As if this was 24 episodes, it probably would have been okay, but just no basic formulaic sense of guidance just kills the show and makes it Trigger's most mid-series. B tier. I can't recommend it, but even then, who cares? If it feels like the writers didn't care about this show, then why should we care about it as well? I'm not even a furry, Michiru's just hot. B tier. Now we have reached the final show for now, SSSS.Dynazenon. This is Trigger's 10-year anniversary project, the sequel series to Gridman, and it's 12 episodes long. And I'm just so happy because we do not have to end on a depressing, sad note. This show fixes the 12-episode curse. This is not a drill, I'm dead serious. The show finally understands after so many shows how to make a proper 12-episode series. The action somehow looks even better than Gridman on the same animation software, and I mean everything about the animation has been bumped up with just some absolutely breathtaking, memorable scenes. Definitely their best looking show yet, and this being Trigger's original story gives them a lot more free will to go off the rails instead of just following a watered down version of the original like Gridman. Instead of having 7 main characters like Kiznaiver where they all don't have enough screen time, this one only has 4 main characters, and gives them all enough equal time to shine with their character arcs. And because all the main characters get actual ongoing character arcs, the show doesn't feel like a disconnected Monster of the Week fest like Gridman, and feels like a true modern story. All the writing in the show is so clever with just how broken all the main characters are, and it's just a joy to watch for every second. Unlike Gridman, where at times it felt like it was just kind of like, slogging on. It's 100% worth watching just for the achievement of breaking the curse, but I'm gonna put it in A tier. Now the reason for that is pretty much the same as Promare. Not in the sense of a show, because when it comes to 12-episode series, I don't think a show will ever be paced as well as this, but in the sense of the collective Gridman universe. That's right, a feature-length film was announced that's going to be a crossover between Gridman and Dynazenon. And if this movie has action as good as Promare, mixed with writing as good as this show, oh, it's going to be a 10 out of 10 masterpiece. I can easily see it being at least a top 3, but until that movie comes out, this can be topped, and the only thing that can top this is going to be that movie, which is why it only gets an A tier, and I'm just going to keep it completely just tied with Promare. Not only is this show just safe to watch, but it's just so much fun, This show just has so much fun with itself. This is totally the kind of show to watch with friends, family, just sit back, relax, grab some popcorn, and enjoy some great battles and storytelling. It was so good that even my mom started going, "Incense, domination!" like the villains for a few minutes there. So yeah, it's just a lot of fun. Great fun for all ages, S tier. After all is said and done, here is the final tier list, and I'm just going to leave it at that. These are completely tied, these are completely tied. This is at a place where I'm somewhat confident in it. If I try to overthink things, I will rearrange this entire tier list in minutes and keep rearranging it for hours and hours, so I'm just going to keep it like this for now. This is the one you guys can yell at me at, and here's, of course, the other tier list. This one's in no particular order, everything's just here, but yeah, here it all is. From March of 2020 all the way to right now, I have finally finished my goal of reviewing every single Studio Trigger anime, and I feel great. Honestly, I just feel amazing, and I just want to say, welcome to the Ranked series. Honestly, I think this is going to be a really good series. We're going to have a lot of fun. We're gonna have a lot of fun here. So leave in the comments down below what you want the next episodes to be. I think I kinda might have an idea of what I want the next episode to be, but I'm not entirely sure. Other than that, I'm gonna go and never watch another anime. I'm gonna take a shower and cleanse myself from the dirtiness of watching so much tits. So, yeah. Cyberpunk Edgerunners, though, when that comes out, you bet your ass I'm gonna be reviewing it. Anyways.
Attention, your Magic Jack subscription has expired. To reactivate your Magic Jack, go to my.magicjack.com and select a new service plan. Thank you.